Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to know that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, specifically prayed for you.
Wow.
Not just humanity in general, but actually you. What would that certainty, feel like?
It's a thought that feels almost, yeah, almost too big to grasp, isn't it?
I
And
think
yet
that
it's
that's
really central to the material we're diving into today.
absolutely. Our deep dive is taking us into an excerpt from a sermon. It's called With Jesus Forever, Unity, Glory, and Love. And it was preached by Reverend Bayani Alkuino.
Mm-hmm.
He's guiding us through John 17, focusing particularly on verses 20 through 26.
Right. And this passage, it's right in the middle of what people call Jesus's priestly prayer.
Okay.
I mean, he is literally hours away from the cross, and he's praying to the Father. But not just for the disciples right there with him. He's looking out across history, praying for all future believers, which means, well, strikingly, he's praying for us right now.
That's powerful. So our mission here in this deep dive is to really unpack this text, using Pastor Bayani's sermon as our guide. We want to pull out the key insights from his message, focusing on Jesus's prayer for unity, for glory, and for a very specific kind of relationship with his followers.
And the way Pastor Bayani kicks this off is actually really grounded, very relatable. He shares this personal story about doing ministry back in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
Feeling like a minority, as Protestants, experiencing some quiet discrimination. And he even admits feeling, well, jealousy towards the bigger, more established churches.
Yeah, that part really jumped out at me. He talks about thinking, why should we pray for them? They're not really our brothers and sisters, that kind of thing.
Exactly. That personal honesty, it just immediately sets up this powerful contrast, doesn't it?
It does.
He shows that human tendency towards, rivalry and division, and then he contrasts it with how profoundly different Jesus's heart is.
Focused on relationship.
Entirely on relationship,
Yeah.
on this expansive love that includes everyone the Father has given him. So that anecdote, it just sets the stage beautifully for understanding what Jesus is actually praying for here.
Yeah. Okay, great setup. Let's dive into the key verse that Pastor Bayani really zeroes in on, John 17:24.
Right. The core of his focus is here. Father, I want those you have given me to be with me where I am and to see my glory.
And his approach in the sermon is to break this down. He looks at it as like three simple but pretty profound truths.
Mm-hmm.
And he explores them through two different theological viewpoints that he personally experienced, the Calvinist view and the Methodist view.
Which I think is really helpful. It shows how different ways of understanding can look at the same words but maybe draw out different facets while still pointing to these deep truths about God and us.
Definitely. So the first truth Pastor Bayani helps us see from this verse is about those you have given me. Who are they? It immediately raises the question, who are these people the Father has given to Jesus?
Yeah, good question. And looking at it through that Calvinist lens, as Pastor Bayani describes it, it really emphasizes something called unconditional election.
Okay, what does that mean in this context?
Well, this perspective understands that God, basically, in his sovereign will, chose specific individuals to be saved. And this choice was made long before they were even born.
Wow.
Yeah. It's seen as a choice based purely on God's own purpose, not dependent on anything the person did or might do, or even God foreseeing their response. It's all God's initiative.
So in that view, those you have given me refers to that specific group God sovereignly elected way back.
Precisely. That's the idea presented. And he contrasts this with what he describes as the Methodist view. This one focuses more on responding to grace, sometimes called conditional election.
Okay, responding to grace, how does that work?
This understanding suggests that God's saving grace, sometimes called prevenient grace, is actually available to everyone. It gives everyone the capacity, the real ability to respond to God's call.
Ah, okay. So it's more about the response.
Right. In this view, God's choice, if you will, is understood as being based on a person's free response of faith to that available grace. Pastor Bayani uses this analogy like an open communion table. Everyone's invited, right? But whoever accepts that invitation, they receive the benefits. Whoever rejects it doesn't.
Makes sense.
So those you have given me in this view are the ones who hear Jesus' call and they say yes in faith. They respond.
So these are two quite different ways of understanding who Jesus is praying for here. One emphasizes God's sovereign choice for them, the other their faith response to him.
Exactly. They highlight different aspects of how salvation happens, that divine human interaction. It's fascinating how the same words can be approached like this.
It really is. Okay, let's move to the second truth from the verse. To be with me where I am. Jesus desires relationship. I mean, the phrase itself is so simple, but wow, Father, I want those you have given me to be with me where I am.
Yeah, and Pastor Bayani really emphasizes that this isn't just, a wish for people to avoid hell or simply go to heaven someday.
Right.
The core desire here is fundamentally relational. It's about being with Jesus, knowing him, walking with him, being like enveloped in his love.
So it shifts the focus, not just a destination, but a person.
Exactly. A relationship with Christ himself. That's the heart of it.
That feels like a really crucial distinction. So how do the two views he talks about interpret this desire to be with me?
Well, for the Calvinist perspective described in the sermon, this desire is seen as a sure promise for the elect.
Okay.
Since Jesus is praying for those God has already chosen, his prayer is essentially that they will absolutely, definitely be with him in glory one day. It's viewed as a certainty, a divine plan that will be fulfilled for this specific group, the elect.
A guaranteed outcome for them. And the Methodist view he presented.
That's framed more as a personal invitation for all. From this viewpoint, Jesus extends this desire, this wanting them to be with him, to everyone.
Not just a select few.
Great. He doesn't force anyone, but he calls, he invites. And anyone who hears that invitation and responds in faith is welcomed into this relationship.
Mm.
And crucially, it's a relationship that doesn't just wait until heaven. It starts now, today, and then continues forever. Pastor Bayani uses that really powerful analogy, Jesus standing at the door of your heart.
Right.
Knocking, not just asking for a quick visit, but inviting you to come and live with him, starting today.
That really brings it into the present moment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It underscores that point in the sermon about relational love today.
Absolutely.
Jesus isn't just like preparing some future place. He's inviting us to walk with him right now.
Yeah.
Through everything.
Yeah.
The good stuff, the struggles, the quiet times, the busy days, even when we doubt.
Yes. The emphasis is that Jesus desires you, your actual life, your presence with him. It's not just about ticking boxes or showing up at church.
Yeah.
When he says, be with me where I am, it carries this weight of wanting to be with you right here, right now, wherever you are in your journey. It's deeply personal.
Okay, that's powerful. Let's look at the third truth Pastor Bayani draws out. To see my glory. The end of John 17:24 says, and to see my glory, the glory you have given me because you loved me before the creation of the world.
This is really a prayer for fullness, isn't it? For complete revelation. Jesus wants his people to truly see him, to perceive him as he really is in his absolute essence.
And how is glory defined here in the sermon context?
As Pastor Bayani describes it, it's sort of the full weight of God's presence, his absolute beauty, his majesty, like the radiant light of his holiness.
Wow.
So to see Jesus' glory means seeing him clearly as the Son of God, just filled with eternal love and power, his unveiled splendor.
Okay, so how do the two perspectives interpret who gets to experience this unveiled glory?
Well, through the Calvinist lens presented, this is often seen as glory reserved for the elect.
Reserved.
Yeah. The idea is that God has chosen this specific group, the elect, and only they will ultimately see Christ's full glory in heaven. This view tends to highlight God's sovereign mercy towards those chosen, and it reveals his holiness.
Is there an analogy for that one?
Yes. The sermon used the analogy of, like, a king inviting only a few specifically chosen guests into his most private throne room, his inner chambers, to see his crown, jewels, and treasure. It's exclusive, sure, but an incredible privilege for those invited.
Okay, I see. And the Methodist perspective described?
That's presented more as glory available to all who respond. The understanding here is that God actually desires for all people to see his glory. Jesus' invitation isn't inherently exclusive, but the actual experience of seeing his glory is sort of contingent on a person's response. Grace is offered universally. The invitation goes out to everyone, but only those who accept that grace through faith will truly see and enter into the fullness of Christ's glory.
So it emphasizes free will again.
Exactly. It emphasizes God's gift of free will. And Pastor Bayani's analogy here is the sunrise.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, its beauty and light are available to everyone, right? It shines universally every morning. But only those who choose to open their eyes, lift their blinds, actually get to see and enjoy that light.
We have to decide to receive it.
That's the idea. We have to open our hearts to receive God's glory.
Those analogies are really effective, aren't they? They make the core differences in how these views frame the invitation pretty clear. One emphasizes God's sovereign choice. The other, our necessary response to his universal offer.
Yeah, they really do. They seem to highlight maybe different, perhaps even complementary aspects of God's character and his plan, his sovereign initiative and his gracious invitation. And what's so powerful, as Pastor Bayani kind of brings it all together in his message, is that regardless of maybe how you lean on these specific theological distinctions,
Right.
there are these core undeniable truths that just shine through from Jesus's prayer.
Yes, he really lands on three key certainties that stand firm no matter how you interpret election.
First, Jesus loves you. Just fundamental.
Simple, profound. Second.
Second, he prays for you,
Defense.
specifically.
And third.
And third, he wants to be with you now and forever.
That just cuts through all the complexity, doesn't it?
It really does.
It reinforces that deeply personal message woven all through the sermon. You are not overlooked. You're not an afterthought.
Not at all.
Jesus specifically prayed for you,
Yeah.
knowing you'd one day believe long before he went to the cross for you.
And that prayer, it isn't just history. It's an active invitation extended right now to you today. Come be with me. Come see my glory.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Pastor Bayani Alkuino's sermon on John 17, specifically verse 24, we've explored how Jesus' prayer really lays bare his deepest desires for his followers.
Yeah, for unity, for them to see his glory, and fundamentally for a real active relationship with him.
We used his framework, looking at John 17.24, and sort of contrasted the Calvinist and Methodist interpretations he presented.
Thinking about who is given to Jesus, what being with him really means relationally, and who experiences his glory. And those analogies he used were really helpful.
They were. And through all that exploring, the central personal message from his sermon just rings out so clearly, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Jesus prayed specifically for you. He desires this ongoing active relationship with you, starting right now today. And he longs for you to experience the just breathtaking fullness of who he is, both now and forever.
So maybe something to think about as you reflect on this. How might these different perspectives on election and grace, the ones Pastor Bayani laid out, how might they shape or illuminate your own understanding of your faith journey?
Yeah, and your relationship with Jesus.
And maybe even how you view the journeys of others around you, but perhaps most personally. How does knowing, with the kind of certainty his message offers, that Jesus prayed for you, personally, right before the cross, how does that truth change your perspective on whatever your circumstances are right now, today?